Yeah, thanks so much, Lauren, for your time. And I'm really grateful that you took your time to meet with my audience from Youth and Education Support Service Ethiopia, from YessEthiopia. This is a non-profit supporting young people from Africa, from different parts of the world, specifically in relation to education, career, and life in academia, in professional journey. So I first came to know about you from the UNL website. It was a very interesting story you have is about how you change from dance to plant biotechnology. This really attracted my attention. And also coming across your LinkedIn post where you discussed you're working, I think, discussing your plan to go to North Carolina State University. And I wanted to know you more and also introduce you to my audience. So please, introduce yourself. Who is Lauren? Let's start from there. Then gradually we'll discuss about your early childhood education, university life, the change from dance to plant biotechnology, where you want to go, how people might support you. Also, I'll ask you questions about your messages for young girls, those who are aspiring to be, big professionals. So please go ahead and introduce yourself and we'll continue one by one. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on here, Fakadu. It's a pleasure. My name's Lauren Wilson. I'm a recent graduate from the University of Nebraska, Lincoln. My major is in horticulture, my minor is in plant pathology, and my emphasis is in plant breeding genetics and biotechnology. As far as who I am, I was born in Ames, Iowa, raised in Des Moines for 5 years, and then my dad got a job at ConAgra in Omaha, and that's how my whole family made it out here, and I've been here pretty much ever since. When you ask me what my childhood is like through the message you sent me, you don't get asked that every day, so I kind of pondered over that a little bit. My childhood was pretty good, especially throughout elementary school years. I have very fond memories. Um, Throughout middle school, I dealt a bit with bullying, and I think that's pretty common for girls at a young age. I mean, middle school is kind of a scary age too. We're all going through changes, and um, I lost one of my really best friends, and to a term called ghosting, what we call ghosting now, but at a young age as a child, I had no idea what that meant. And so I kind of dealt with, like, why am I not being accepted? And I, at that age, I realized that, you know what, I deserve so much better than this. And when I went on to high school, I decided to go to a completely different high school than I was supposed to. So I left all of my friends that I wasn't really sure if they were my friends. I didn't really fit in well with the people in my class, and decided to go to a lower income high school that was a couple blocks, probably more than a couple blocks away from the school I intended to go to, which is a lot of other students that have come from wealthier families. And I'm so glad that at the age of 12, I realized, I had this realization that, you know, I deserve better than this. And I'm a more expansive person than this, and I want to learn more about culture, and I want to be around people with different views. And so I moved to a different high school, and throughout my high school years, I really zoned into dance. That's when I really got into dance, was about around the age of 13. I started to dance competitively. I was in the studio 4 or 5 days a week, several hours after classes at in high school, and having to come home after dance to do homework. I was a very, very busy person in high school. But so zoned into dance because that was kind of my escape. And we had around the same time, in around 13 years old, my family had some hardship as well. We were dealing with divorce. And at the time, we thought it was going to be a divorce. I was under the impression my parents were going to be divorced for like a total of 3 years. And so I was high pressure, trying to control, and also being like the emotional support person in my family. And I think that level of wanting to be in control when things were out of control drove me even further into dance. And I was so determined that this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Nobody can tell me I'm going to be doing anything else. My parents were like you should probably have a backup. And I remember talking to like my friends' parents and them being like, so what are you gonna do after dance? And I hated that question because I'm like, what do you mean after dance? I'm gonna do this forever. And they saw it from a point of view as like, how are you gonna support yourself financially? And how are you gonna make a living and start a family when you're constantly like as a dancer, as a professional dancer, you're on the go. Your body is your business. So you constantly have to be in fit. You're always exhausted. It's just not a very sustainable career, but I did not care at the time. So I luckily got into one of the best dance training schools in the US called Theater Arts Prep School in Las Vegas, Nevada. I trained in jazz, tap, contemporary, hip hop, musical theater. We did acting, we did singing. They were building triple threats. So I could have got jobs on commercials, in movies, as a backup dancer, in different gigs. They were training us for every possibility. And it was really tough, but I'm really glad I got through that. It was a 6 month trade school and it was like school. It was a 7 hour a day thing. We had 4 classes a day that were an hour and a half each. And then we'd have voice lessons once a week with incredible people that they would fly in from New York who have been on Broadway, people who would come in from LA. These are like backup dancers for Beyonce at Coachella or Miley Cyrus at the VMAs. So I was incredibly privileged in that way. And I'm so thankful that I got through it because it was really tough for me. And after the trade school had ended and I had graduated, I continued to dance and go to auditions six months after that, and slowly just was so drained and realized it was to a point where my friends would be going to an audition. I would lie to them and text them and say I'm sick when really I wasn't sick. And I would just stay home and I would paint, I would do art because that was, I feel like I needed an escape from dance. And that's like, I think that was the realization. That was when I realized that I, I just, I can't do this anymore. It's no longer sustainable. It's no longer serving me. And so I moved back to Omaha completely confused as to what to do, but it was a strategic leave. It was a strategic leave. I knew that I wouldn't regret it. And I made sure to sit down with myself and be like, okay, are you sure? Like, are you sure you want to end this? Because I had just invested, oh gosh, several, maybe 9 or 10 years of my life into dance, thinking, and the entire way through, thinking I was going to do this for the rest of my life. And all of a sudden, like, okay, you know what? It's not what I thought it was. Um, and I'm losing money like no other. And at the time, I just had other passions. I had other ideas as to what I wanted to do. And one of those being when I was in Vegas, what I really missed was grass. I know it's the weirdest thing, but I missed a patch of grass. Like that's all I wanted. Because in Vegas, it's a lot of rock and it's a desert. So there's not a lot of rain. There's no real change in seasons. I think it snowed once when I lived there. And so I realized like I had this like internal connection to nature that I did not know I had until I left it. In Nebraska, I mean, with my dad, we would go on bike rides in the woods, and like I grew up playing in the mud, and it was such a different environment. And so when I got back, I I was convinced that I wanted to do something in science, but I wasn't sure. And so while I was deciding, I decided to do my gen eds, my general education, just so that I could have start and maybe figure out along the way what I wanted to do next. And my first class, my first college course ever was basic biology with a aquatic entomologist who got her PhD in New York. And I think a couple weeks in, she showed us this video called Genetic Engineering Will Change Everything Forever. And I had never heard of genetic engineering, no idea what it was. I had, very basic understanding of science, and I had interest in it as a child, but never really took it on as, a career or thought of it. And I just remember being like dumbfounded and amazed by what CRISPR was. I was like, what is this weird CRISPR stuff? And we had like these ethical conversations about how, like, we technically have the possibility to gene edit babies and to cure cancer and like all these genetic diseases. And I was just like, wait, what? It was so new to me. This whole, view on science was so new. And that's what really set off my career wanting to work in genetic engineering. And the only reason why I went into the plant side was not only because I had some sort of connection to nature, and I'd say I had connection to nature as in like animals as well, but the reason why I went the plant route was because I was just too much of an animal lover. Like, I just don't think I could have been in a lab and tested lab rats because I just loved them too much. I didn't want to do that. So I went into plants. And I'm so happy I did because I've just had the absolute best experience from it. And ever since, I feel like I've just been so much happier of a person. And like the people in the field are just like me. Like they're so passionate about what they do. And they grew up similarly too. I mean, most of us that I've met here are from Nebraska. But even hearing from grad students from internationally, we all have this driven passion to change the world and to better the earth and to preserve our natural resources. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and kind of how I've become who I am today.
Yeah, thanks so much. This is very, very good intro about our discussion today. So as I said earlier, this whole discussion is primarily aimed at young people from Africa, people who would like to get inspirations, life experiences, people who would like to, be bold about what they want to do. Sometimes it's not easy to make this kind of decisions. The decision you just made, changing to plant biotechnology, especially the science part of it. Now, I'm going to ask you, what did it take you to really figure out that this is where you want to go? Specific to this course on biology, can you tell us more about where, the spark in your mind, in your aspirations, become visible, then you decided to go to, okay, I'm going to be a plant biotechnologist. What is that turning point? Thank you.
Um, honestly, I think for the longest time it was blind faith. Just like I knew that that's eventually what I wanted to do, but I had dabbled in different like thoughts of how this could go along the way. I was originally a plant biology major, and my advisor was Christian Olowski, and I asked so many questions. I think in a way I scared him away because he was like, I don't know, it sounds like you want to do horticulture. So he transferred me over to Ann Strike, who's a different advisor at UNL. And then I started in horticulture before it changed to plant and landscape systems. And I don't know, I was just exploring all these different classes, and I think what it took was to just learn a little bit about everything. I knew generally where I wanted to be, but I think what it took was gaining more knowledge into different spaces and realizing, oh, okay, that's not so much for me, or oh, wow, that's really interesting, I might want to go that route. I do remember there being periods in my career debating, like, I don't know, where's this going to go? And one of those periods being if I wanted to be a plant pathology major. I had made it to junior year and it was time for me to pick a minor. And I was like, oh gosh, what minor I'm gonna pick. And I was just doing some research on my own, and I was looking into Dr. Thomas Clemente's lab because I knew that was the goal eventually. I wanted to work for him. I wanted to work in biotechnology, and he was a big name in biotechnology and just happened to be at the University of Nebraska Lincoln. So I knew that was my end goal, was to work there. And I was looking through his past credentials, and he got his PhD in plant pathology. And I was like, okay, trying to connect the dots. Why would you be a plant biotechnologist that comes from or originates from plant pathology? And as I learned more about plant pathology, I realized how close of a connection there are because the similarity between the two is microbiology. It's all about what can we see on a molecular level and what kind of cell processes are happening. And so I ended up meeting with Dr. Lauren Giesler at the plant pathology department at UNL. And he asked the same question, how did you get into plant pathology? And I was like, there's just some things I can't explain. I just don't know. Other than I have an interest and I like my mind is set on it. And so um and honestly, ever since I learned about CRISPR, it has not changed. Right now, I'm looking for a PI who's working in CRISPR, and this is 5 years later. And I was just talking to my father last night about the PI I've been in contact with and what he's doing. And I brought up CRISPR, and he's like, it's so weird. It always circles back to CRISPR. Like, you've been talking about CRISPR for years. I remember you talking to our uncle about CRISPR, and he's a anesthesiologist, but knows a lot about science. And we would kind of like shoot ideas back at each other at different holiday family get-togethers. And I'm like, yeah, it is weird, but like it must just be in my personality that like once I'm set on something, I can't give it up. I won't let it go. And I mean, we saw that with dance, and we're seeing that now with biotechnology.
Very interesting. You already walked through some of the questions, especially just reflecting on your experience from the University of Nebraska. What key messages or like experiences do you like to share in relation to your like career, also what you observe from your colleagues, overall your university experience? Now you're looking for going from Nebraska to North Carolina or other places. So let's sum up your UNL experience. So what do you take away from UNL? And yeah, then I'll come to the question about your next career plan.
Yes. So as of right now, for a little background story, I applied to 4 different universities for my master's, and I also applied for a PhD at different universities as well. I did get an offer, but after an interview, I just had a gut feeling it wasn't for me. But I had always been set on North Carolina State. I love the Research Triangle. I love the people out there. Luckily, in November of 2023, I got into the Visit NC State program. So I got to go visit the PI I was interested in, and she was doing a really cool study on using maize mosaic virus as a vector to insert CRISPR, the Cas9 nuclease and the guide RNA into different crops. And after our conversation together and following up over the year before I applied, it seemed like it was set. And then, of course, in January of this year, 2025, the federal funding cuts came in and slashed her project. And so, because of that, I was not accepted. As of now, my application still says departmental review. So I was never actually denied. I just couldn't continue with that certain PI. And so right now I'm reapplying to NC State in 3 different departments. And I've learned a lot along the way. When big hardships like that happen, when you have roadblocks, when things get in the way, it's all about adapting and persistence. Adapting in different ways I've adapted to this shift is I've been open to the idea of getting an industry job instead in the meantime, or replacing it until down the line there's funding for me to get a master's. So I've both been applying to different jobs while also applying to graduate schools. I've learned a lot, and UNL has definitely been my rock throughout this, especially Stephanie Osterthun. She's the post-graduation career advisor for recent graduates at UNL, and she's been incredible as to referring me to different seminars to watch, curating my CV and resume so that they're ATS accustomed. ATS is like an AI system that kicks out every other resume that's longer than one page, that has a certain font, that has certain colors in it. So I've had to completely change and also rebrand who I am as well, just to get my name out there. I had never even touched LinkedIn until the cuts. So in a way, like, the cuts did serve me well, because now I'm really digging into who I am, what I can present, what I can bring to the table in people's labs, and what direction I want to go as well. And I w- I'd say, other than that, like, what I've been learning is just persistence is key. And I saw this with the same girls in that I worked with in dance. Um, because at the time, like, we were auditioning, we didn't really have a contract. Some of us, including myself, had agents, but that we still didn't land like a long-term contract. We were doing gigs, and we were just thinking, when's the day we're working so hard, and like, nothing is happening. But now, I still have them on Instagram, and so I'll see them, and they're working permanent shows, they're working on cruise ships, they're doing amazing things. And that was a realization for me as to, like, if I stuck it in with, like, if I stuck to it, I probably could have continued a career in dance, which, thinking about that, would have been cool. But I'm also so thankful that I left as well, just for, like, security wise, and meeting the people that really get me. I feel like, people at UNL really get me, and so I'm really, really thankful that I left that. But persistence is 100% key. You could be working a whole year trying to apply to different jobs, but it doesn't matter if the next year you landed an amazing job that you're going to be in for 5 years. The trudge is the hardest part, not knowing where you're going completely, like having a blind faith as to where you're going to land, what you're going to do. But the key is to never give up.
Sorry, I've been speaking while on mute. So,
Oh, you're good.
yeah. So, with your next plan, going to masters or career in employment sector, so how can people support your growth? What are you looking for in relation to support, in relation to career guidance? It can be lawyer, it can be advisor, it can be someone who already have a grant in areas that you want to work. So just can you be a little bit clear there? What's your high priority in relation to getting support? Is it an advisor that you are actively looking for now? Or is it really a vacancy? Where is your target?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm looking for companies that their focus is to change agriculture, um, without interrupting natural resources, and with the forethought of climate change in hand. Um, I want to do crop improvement with biotechnology, and I'm looking for a team of people who are super passionate about what they do, and they have a little bit of innovativeness to it, but also a kind of a realistic mindset as to the end results of what we're creating, if it's even usable for the farmer, and also just taking some of the weight off the shoulders of farmers. At UNL, I took this really cool class called Resource Efficient Crop Management, and we got to visit farmers in their field and ask them questions directly about their production systems. And people have this assumption that farmers have tons of money, but um, they may have money to buy a tractor in a warehouse and have all this equipment, but at the end of the day, they're not really profiting much and they're working so hard. So I would like to contribute to a company who's not only keeping climate change in mind and protecting our earth, but also who is trying to lift some of the weight off the farmers' shoulders, and ultimately create a product that is going to benefit the public, that will be used, that is realistic. And in ways you can support is just by getting me in contact with these people that are running companies like this. I like the mind of a startup, but the reality of an established industry. I like the mind of a startup because people have a lot of passion when things are just starting to begin. They have a lot of great ideas, but also they understand the reality of what their product and what they're making, and if at the end of the day it's going to be used, and if it's going to be profitable, if it's going to be efficient, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I think the way people could help me is just by getting me in contact with uh, those types of people that are running companies like that, or even others that know or are working for companies like that. Um, and yeah, I look for that in a PI as well. I've been, warned several times talking to graduate students that you need to find a PI that is not micromanaging, hovering over your shoulder, watching every move you're making, but is also willing to guide you, and you don't feel like your project is a burden, or you don't feel like your project is being left behind or forgot about. You kind of want that perfect in between of somebody that can leave their desk and come into the lab and show you and demonstrate you something and have meetings with you every week without them being super controlling or completely distant from you. So that's kind of what I look for in a PI. Also, I want the same drive as well. I want to see that they're passionate about what they do, and that they are, looking at this in a realistic way and wanting to actually do something with this research. And through going to different conferences, I listen to the biologists, I listen to the microbiologists, but I also listen to the applied workers and what they have to say. And a lot of the applied workers at these conferences, there'll be a lot of presentations on very specific microbiology interactions, and um, they'll question what is even the point of this, why are we even studying this if I'm out in the field and we're having these issues, but what they're studying isn't even solving any issue. And I pondered that for a while. I was like, no, that's a good point. What what are we doing, how are we contributing, and is it important at the end of the day? But what I counteracted with that comment was, I think every study in science is important, because you never know, during the creation of an invention for a business, they could have needed that research, or that input from a different study that they pulled from to make that. For example, Jennifer Doudna and her partner were studying the interactions between bacteria and bacteriophages, and they discovered CRISPR. Cas9 was always there, but they discovered the technology behind CRISPR, and now it's a worldwide thing used everywhere. So you just never know. Even though they seem very minuscule, even though these projects seem irrelevant, they're actually extremely important. And so, um, to sum that up, I like the people with that vision of, okay, what is the goal? Let's have a goal in mind, how we can contribute to society and to farmers.
Yeah, thanks so much. I was trying to unmute myself again. So
You're
now the
good.
next question. What advice would you give to the young girls out there? There are many who are going to watch this discussion. They might reach out to you. So just give them a hint about your key advices for their career growth. In addition, also, why should they contact you? How can you support? Why should people reach out to you? Like, what's relevant for them if they reach out to you?
Some advice I would give, that's a good question. Like if I were talking to my younger self that had no idea where I was going, I would say try a little bit of everything. If you are kind of confused, if you're in a rut as to what you want to do in life, I encourage you to get into different classes, get into different courses that are more specific or tailored to the career you're questioning. Talk to people who are in the career you're questioning. I have a lot of friends who are kind of in that period of like, I'm really passionate about XYZ, but I don't know which route to take. And I think what supported me most throughout my career was the advisors that I've been in contact with, the people doing the jobs that I thought about doing, and kind of just like process of elimination. And then once you figure out what you want to do, do not let it go. Persistence is key. I'll say it again. Persistence is key. Learn more and more and more about it in your own time. Try to read books about it. Try to watch YouTube videos about it. I think a lot of my learning I know a lot of my learning's at UNL, but a lot of it is also watching YouTube videos and reading like old biology books. Right now I'm reading a biology book from, it's not super ancient, it's still pretty relevant, but like 20, maybe 2005-ish era. And it's just like it's a good like reminder slash reboot as to like all the information I've learned prior, but now I feel like I can go back in and dig even deeper than what I've, maybe some things I've forgotten before. Just like get really passionate about what you want to do and make sure you take it with you outside of classes. Take it home with you. Do your own experiments. I met somebody from Nepal who had her own little greenhouse space and she did minor experiments as a child, and I just think that's great to stay curious and to continue to dive deeper. I think that's really important. As far as what I can do for you, I have a lot of contacts, especially as I'm trying to grow who I am as well. If you want to get in contact with me, please go on my LinkedIn and message me and let me know what you're interested in, and I will see if I know anybody. I'm in contact with quite a bit of people right now. Just I'm trying to network myself, so over time I'm kind of building the numbers as to how many people I know and in different careers. Most of the people I am talking to right now are in North Carolina, but I do know a lot of people in Nebraska as well. I know a lot of faculty in plant biology. I know a lot of faculty in plant pathology, in horticulture, and agriculture. So if any of that is of interest to you and you're interested in coming to the University of Nebraska Lincoln or to NC State, I probably have a contact for you. So yep, just send me a message on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much. So very interesting. I just love hearing your story and how you connect the dots. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
it's visible you have a very big future. And right after we finish the discussion, I'm going to share what we just discussed and also this background picture. You'll see a lot of young people are going to interact with it, and it's very beautiful.
Thank you so much.
The topic of the discussion, just career change from dance to plant biotechnology, just keep echoing in my mind, and how we keep supporting young people so that they reach at their dream passion, at their dream job, at their dream future, so that they contribute following their passion. And so this is really very interesting. So I'll give you a final opportunity. Anything that I didn't ask you or any ideas that came to your mind, if you want to thank someone, please take the chance and add additional points or acknowledgements. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, additional pointers. Whew, I don't know, but I do have people to thank. One of them, a big one that I don't thank enough, is Dr. Donald Lee. Uh, Throughout this, figuring out what university I wanted to go to, my parents kind of dragged me to the University of Nebraska Lincoln. I didn't want to stay in Nebraska. I had lived in Nebraska almost my entire life. I had just come from Nevada and I wanted to go somewhere else, but my parents were like, come on, try it. And so we did like this curated visit where we got to go to the East Campus where the plant biology center is. And I met Dr. Donald Lee, and he actually recently retired 2 months ago in May of 2025. And when I visited, he was one of the first people from Plant Science Hall that we talked to, and he showed me around and he showed me into the different greenhouses and even had me stand in with a class and learn what they were learning. And he made science sound so much fun. He reminds me so much of Bill Nye. Like I just it's such a close connection. I love Bill Nye, and like every time I talk to Don, he just reminds me of it because he's like, we just want to get kids passionate about genetics. And I did work for him I did TA for two of his classes, plant science and genetics. And I just remember like all of his meetings every week and pep talks they weren't a drag. They were so just completely came from his heart of passion and his excitement for his job. And that will always live through me. And I think I will always encourage students that I'm teaching that, not all of science has to be a drag. I've worked in labs where, you kind of dread going to work because not everybody is passionate about what they do. They kind of feel like they just keep their head down and do their job and go home, make money and go home. But for Don, like he shows me a completely different side of science, where it's kind of like that childlike wonder that you look through like rose-colored lenses in, and you're just like so passionate and in love. And I feel like, I guess one more piece of advice is to never lose that, because that's if you do lose that, I think it's going to be a lot harder to continue in science, because science is hard. Science is a very tough career. And I think you will discover that more as you continue learning more. And one thing that I say all the time is the more I learn, the more I don't know what the heck I'm talking about, or feel like I don't know what I'm talking about, because there's just so much we haven't discovered. And and so yeah, just never lose your curiosity, never lose your creativity, never let the logistics of science weigh you down. Remember that there is a creative, fun, passionate side of science that will always live in you.
So beautiful. You're really an amazing storyteller. I can witness that
Thank you.
from just listening to the way connect, especially science major. Technology is really is a topic that attracts bright minds, and I can already see from your passion and from the way you see it. So yeah,
Thank you so
for
much.
sure, you have a lot coming your way. So
Yes.
I'm going to share our discussion just like thank you note on LinkedIn, and then after I change this into upload it to our YouTube, and people can see it from there. Yeah, I just want to thank you
Awesome.
so much for your time. And
Yes,
if people
thank
wanted to
you.
hear more, they can ask questions in the discussion, and I can always host you again and hear your story. Maybe talk to your advisors or people in your network. Feel free to
Yeah.
send me their names. I'm gonna tag them so that they really see the fruit of their investments, their teaching. I'm a teacher. I love when students acknowledge their teachers, when students
Yeah.
reflect back to their classes and how a single class, shows them a direction to future careers. This is really so inspiring that most
Yeah.
teachers would love to hear. So
Thank you
yeah, I
so much.
think that's all. And now we are already part of YessEthiopia mission, youth and education support mission, students from Africa, people you never imagined very far from you, miles of thousands of miles away across the
Mm-hmm.
Atlantic. They are going to watch it from different parts of the world. And I'm going to share with you how many people interacted, watched, and the comments they give. So, yeah, and yeah, have a nice time and best wishes with your career.
Thank you so much, Fakadu. Thank you so much to YessEthiopia as well for having me on today.
Thank you so much. Have a nice time.
You too. Bye.
Bye.